please.
Sorry, Sage.
Sorry about that.
And you missed all the best comedy lines. And that is never going to happen exactly that way again. You can't step into the same river twice. All right, now I want you to work a little bit more on the archetypes. If you are having your person pull a card that's going to represent them or their question, and you get the Five of Wands, which did happen today, reversed, how does that represent a person or a question? Yeah. Well, that happened to be a question about a young person, occupation, am I on the right path? There's a lot of competition. If you have the handout, look at the fives page. Look at the Five of Wands. It's this bunch of youths, and in the era of the 1900s when these cards were designed, they were male, because women wouldn't have been running around in pants beating on people with giant sticks. So it's competition. It's kind of like a lacrosse meet, right? So she was asking about her academic path, her career path. And what the cards told her is, well, yeah, you could do that if you want. It wouldn't be for the highest good, but there's a lot of competition. It's going to be a lot of work. And at the end of it, you're going to feel like, is that all there is? So let's kind of circle the drain here and zoom in on what's your genius, what's your unique abilities. What do you love to do, and how can you do that and let people pay you? So that was a very coherent reading, even though she's looking at it and going, there's like all these different cards. The one thing that wasn't in that particular reading was swords. Now, if you know tarot deck at all, you know there's earth, wind, fire, and water, right? Swords are air, they're intellect. Wands are fire, that's your creative. And I'm going to reference Joan. The triple warmer in Qigong and Tai Chi is the part of your body that carries out digestion and releases the energy into your body. Why do you think they call them calories, which is a measure of heat? We all have a fire in here. If we sit still too much and we don't move around and we don't feed it properly, the fire is going to get really dull and low. I can teach you some exercises to boost it up. We all have all the elements. But this reading had no swords. It had no air. It had no breathing room. It had nothing supporting fire. And it didn't have a whole lot of water either. Whole lot of pentacles. And somebody somewhere in her life had told her, go to school, get good grades so you can get a good job and make a living. Well, if you're here, you know that that's not all that it's all about. No. Somebody else got 2 readings full of major arcana cards. The cards that you're seeing there, just full of them. It's like, wow. When I was younger, when I was just a baby tarot reader, I thought that meant that this is like world-shaking issues. First time I got a reading with all those major cards like that, I thought this young man was going to be the Antichrist. Or he was going to save the world. I mean, it was just like, seemed so big. And when it was all over, I asked him, what was this about? And he goes, I'm trying to decide if I should change my major. Well, then that's a question of perspective, isn't it? In his young life, this was the biggest thing. He didn't have my middle-aged perspective of the world, the universe, and everything. That's another thing when you come into tarot reading is you have to meet people where they are and not scare them too much. You know that the death card doesn't mean death, right? It's the death of ego. It's a transition to another state of awareness. Somebody whips out the death card and goes, oh, that's scary. No. I mean, it can be scary, but it doesn't mean you're going to die any more than the tower means that you're actually going to get struck by lightning. It may feel like that when your assumptions are shattered, but then you go to a better level of understanding. All right, so coming back to the archetypes. Who thinks that if you get a face card, it has to be a person? Nobody. Ooh, like such a sophisticated room full of people. Yeah. So the kings are the maintainers of society, the caretakers of people and of the culture. The queens are the fulfillment of the emotional and relational water kind of, even the queens of pentacles, even the other queens, not just the queen of cups. The knights are supposed to be action. Some of them are not so actionable. And the pages are either students or messages or telling you that there's more you need to learn. So these are archetypes of people. The other minor arcana cards are archetypes of human activities, like the fives. Every single one of the fives is showing some kind of change, conflict, or transition, that you are moving to a different state. I don't mean New Hampshire or Massachusetts. A different condition of life. And guess what happens with the sixes? They're gateways and gifts. There's a progression through each suit. There's a progression through the major arcana. If you study the major arcana first, then it informs the minor arcana. So minor arcana are human affairs, what we do, how we feel about things. But if you take the number and go to the major card that relates to that number and look at what that archetype means about human enlightenment, where you are on that journey, then that informs the human action. Because you are manifesting as a principle of the universe. When you do a thing, guess who I am today? Yay! The hermit. The person who has achieved one of the mountaintops and turns around and holds up the lantern to lead the way for the people coming after. I love nines because it's 3 times 3. It makes so much sense to me. That's one of my favorite cards. When I get a 9 in a reading of one of the minor cards, I have to look at that and say, all right, if I'm looking at this card, what is it I am teaching or learning? What is it that I need to pay attention to in terms of what kind of role model am I being for someone? What kind of example? What kind of a guide? Is this person I'm doing the reading for, do they need to be teaching or do they need to be taught? I have to figure that out. Whatever suit it is in, the 9 is always going to mean something about teaching or learning. That's why it's so important to look at the major arcana cards first. If you never did anything with the minor arcana cards, you could spend your whole life just studying the majors and using them as guides and inspirations for your own meditations. Every one of them has a lesson, right? And I can't tell you all of them right now. I like to use the 5 as an example because in numerology, Suzanne, come here. No, you need to be answering into the, here, I'll bring this to you. What does this 5 stand for?
5 stands for change. It also stands for motion and promotion.
Okay. Oh, yes. I've got pages and pages about that. Know what fours are? Okay. Four, the most stable, non-mobile number. Just going to sit there. Make sure everything stays the same. Stability, reliability. Yes, the emperor, the father of all the kings, the one who is making sure that society stays intact. And if you don't behave yourself, that scepter comes down. What do you think it means if you get the emperor reversed? What if it's flipped over? Out of balance, Don says. Could be, but it could also be that you're finally getting some progress. You're finally getting some motion, right? And then you get to the 5, because if everything is being held in place and everything is frozen and we're trying to operate our country, our world on the basis of 1950s square boxes, then you better bet we're going to have a whole lot of 5s coming up. A whole bunch of people breaking out of that. So you see the big 5 on the page of 5s is the Hierophant. If you look at the picture, it kind of looks like a pope, right? Yeah, it does. But the face of this pope is strangely androgynous. There's a reference to Pope Joan, who was a female pope in the Middle Ages. And I don't think they knew she was a woman until after she died. Imagine how that freaked out the gynophobes. The patriarchy. No. So if you get that 5 right side up in a reading, it is kind of a symbol of conformity, and everything that the emperor is trying to maintain is all being, there's the church and government, right? Government and church, right? All trying to keep everybody driving in their own lane. Everybody's behaving themselves. Nothing is changing. Eek. But if you flip it over, what do you think that you get? Come on, somebody's got to have some idea. Well, you certainly get an LGBTQ plus rainbow of people choices, diversity, nonconformity. Yeah. But how can a person get one of these major arcana principles of the universe in their individual reading? Because they are experiencing or manifesting the principle. The principle. I am not currently manifesting the principle of movement. I am impaired with my movement right now, or I'd be trotting around the room. Who am I embodying right now? Yeah, I'll go back to him. Oh, the hermit, the teacher. Yeah. But I'm not the universal principle of the guide. I'm merely a human channeling and manifesting that archetype. So look at the sheet that has all the different little archetypes, and somebody tell me an archetype that you're going like, what's that one about? You have to be interactive, right? Somebody tell you what? Something they like? One of the archetypes that you want to talk about. The magician. The magician. When you look at the magician, which is number 1, after the fool manifests into the world, What is the first thing that a human baby has to do, or any kind of a baby? It has to figure out how to be. It has to figure out how to, yes, breathe, eat, poop, all that kind of stuff. It also has to figure out, pardon? And search, yep. It has to take in a lot of data, learn how to be what it is born into being. That depends on your culture. In most cultures, it kind of depends on your gender. It depends on your social class, your economic class, the climate, the geography, the languages. Do you live in a multicultural area, or do you just hear one language your whole life and have no idea that people could be any different than you are? When you get the magician in a reading, often it means you have everything you need to succeed. You have learned how to bring the power down out of the universe. See all those little tools? Those are all the traditional magician's tools, all laid out. You have the fertility, the energy, the sustenance of nature all around you. You have the discipline and focus to manifest what you want to do. The magician, in a way, is the most fundamental human function, aside from breathing, eating, pooping, right? That you learn how to manipulate the world around you. Anybody here ever known a baby other than yourself? Yeah, been around a couple of babies? Well, one of the first things that a baby learns to do, whether it's a bird or a human, is to manipulate the caregivers. The baby learns very quickly, if it's a human baby, which cry will bring mommy running and which cry will drive the parents to distraction. Anybody here have a cat? Okay. I had a cat. Now I have a different cat. The other cat taught me a very important lesson. I wanted to teach her to take treats from my fingers. She was not feral, but she had been lost and abandoned for a long time when we got her. She taught me that when she did this, that I had to drop the treat on the floor. Because she didn't have enough trust to take the treat out of my fingers. But took her a few days to teach me, maybe a couple of weeks. I never was able to teach her to take the treats from my fingers. Yeah, because she had already trained me, and as far as she was concerned, that was a done deal. Then when we got the next cat, I said, I'm going to get this one. I'm going to get him. Okay. And I did. And I got him so bad, if he sits next to my desk and just stares at me, I'll say, do you want a treat? I have this little glass dish that I give him treats in. I'll hold that out. And if he wants it, the eyes get big. But if what he wants is to go out, and I say, what do you want? He'll run to the bathroom to be let out the window. What he has taught me, I taught him to take treats out of my fingers if they're good enough. Like he likes honey roast turkey, but he doesn't like roast beef. There's a whole list. He likes some kinds of ham. He doesn't like other kinds of ham. I know. But so I taught him to take treats out of my hand and to sit when he wants a treat. And he taught me that if it's not a treat, he wants to go out. And then when he wants to come in, he bangs on the pet door, and I go and let him in. And then I have to give him a treat. Because I trained him. You getting the feedback loop here? Yeah. I trained him that if he comes in like a good boy, he's going to get a treat. So he'll go out and in like 5 times because he wants another treat. All right. Back to learning to control your environment. We all want to do it. We want to control the people who have the things we need. We want our boss to give us the pay, so we learn to do that. We learn to manipulate the environment. And do you know why we're never going to get rid of guns? Because humans are addicted to action at a distance. We love making things happen remotely. Otherwise, why wouldn't you get up and just push the button on the television? It's only 3 steps away. It won't kill you. It might actually be good for you. But no, we'll sit there and push the button on the remote because we love to control our environments. That's what the magician is all about. Right? Have I beaten him up enough? Yeah, I think I have. Have we reached the point where people are going, oh, archetypes, right? If you're watching a Hallmark film, which I almost never do, but I have a person in my household who loves them, how do you tell which one's the villain? Pretty early in the program. Could be. Yeah, it could be the behavior. It could be the villain is more likely to be a dark-haired person, perhaps with facial hair, who doesn't actually make good eye contact and smiles at the wrong time. And why do you have that? That stereotype is a derivative of an archetype, a social archetype. It's good in movies and in comedy acts to surprise people a little. Not too much, because then they'll get scared or offended. Again, coming back to the tarot, back to the archetypes in the tarot. So far, we're only talking about the ones that are real, like you can relate. These are types of human essences, right? Icons. What about when you get into the next stage of archetypes? Then it tends to be more actions. You'll see the crayfish crawling up out of the water, having to go on the path between the dog and the wolf. And that's between the human culture and the animal culture that we have to achieve. It's kind of running a gauntlet. We have to be able to make our way between the demands of human culture and our animal nature. If you look at the strength card in the handout, is this lovely woman is gently closing the mouth of the lion. The lion represents your animal energy, your animal nature, your impulses. If you were Carl Sagan, who was not a neurologist, by the way, and his brain model is not accurate, but you talk about the reptile brain, the monkey brain, and the human brain. It's not really like that. You need your whole brain, actually, so don't cut any of them out. We do have those animal instincts. We do have those reflexes. It is up to the conscious mind to be able to moderate them and tame them so that the power and the strength of the lion is available to you, but it's channeled and managed in such a way that it serves you. And it doesn't bite off your arm when you try to feed it or teach you to let it in and out all the time. Yeah. She's so reactive. I love it. She's sitting up here and she's just emoting to everything. You're wonderful having the audience. It's great. All right. So what does strength mean to you when you get it in a reading? It means that you or the person you're reading for is probably doing a good job of making all the butterflies fly in formation, of using the power of your animal nature, your instincts, paying attention to your gut, understanding your unconscious responses to things, trust in yourself because your higher self is managing that energy. But reversed, really, do you need to drink 3 drinks every day of the week? Really, do you need to lose your temper when people don't do what you want them to do? Really, do you have to strike out when someone disagrees with you? So that would be strength reversed is your animal nature taking over to act out of instinct instead of your human values. Starting to make sense now? Yeah. I want questions. Does anyone have any questions? Am I being really clear, Greg?
Is that an infinity symbol on top of the head?
Yes, that is an infinity symbol. And I yes, it means that there is no end. It's all a loop. It's all a loop. And there's no end to the power either. I bet those of you who have been to other trainings here have had someone say to you, it's all about the energy. It's all the same energy, and the energy is infinite. I'm going to quote a little conversation I had with my husband at one point. We went to a presentation. As we were driving home in the car, I said, I want to do that. And he said, I can't see how we could do that. I can't imagine how we could do that. And I said to him, your ability to envision it has nothing to do with my ability to accomplish it. That was about going zero debt. We went zero debt in 13 months. Not that we had a stupendous amount of consumer debt, but, for a middle-class working couple, it was a burden, and why should we be giving them our money, right? So, we got a book, and we did some trainings, and we did it. That's fine. By the way, don't close all your accounts and cut up all your credit cards, because then you'll have 0 credit rating. It takes a while to get it back. But we have no consumer debt to this day, and that was 30 years ago. Because we learned our lesson. And before that, as a typical middle-class working person, we did not have the knowledge. We didn't have the understanding. We didn't have the tools. Well, whatever it is that you want to do in your life now, if you say to somebody, I want to do that, and they say, I don't see how you could do that. The best thing that you can do is ask them to make you a list of all the reasons why they think you can't do that. Because those are your stepping stones. I call them the but people. And I married one, knowing he was a but person. He's kind of a left brain guy, and he doesn't want to start doing anything until he knows that he's going to be able to do it. I used to work for one just like him. I mean, their Colby Index psychological profiles were almost identical. I worked for him, and I'd say, John, we should do this. And he'd say, write it all out so I know what the steps are. And I go, nope. So after a while, he got to the point where he'd just say, just write out the first 3 things so I know you've thought about it. Because for me, writing them all out is as much work as doing them. I have no doubt, and this is my personality, and if you don't have this personality, you are not a lesser being. You are one of the people I need on my team. Because there are people who can think of everything that could go wrong. And basically, I don't care. That's the Ways and Means Committee. As far as I'm concerned, the conceptual person, I've got a goal. There's a thing I want to do. I'm going to go do that. And I will fully expect that you will come along and you will tell me everything that's going wrong, and then you'll get somebody to do it. Right? So you need 5, and again, we're coming back to the number 5 kinds of people on every team. right? So you need initiators, data gatherers, you need the but people, and you need the implementers, right? And then you need the amiable who gets along with everybody so they don't fight and can translate among all the personalities. Amiable. You know, everybody knows someone who's just agreeable, who gets along with everyone. They're just amiable. My sister was like that. It's like my brother and I would fight all the time. My sister's like, no, I don't fight. Mm-mm. How can I make you feel better? Can I translate this for you? You guys are not talking, so like, how can I make that better? Yeah. Yeah, she works for assisted living facilities and brings clients in to take care of them because that's who she is. Yeah, she's a nurturer. She is. Although she can get a zinger in there too. The point being that when you look at these archetypes, each of them is representing a universal principle. They're representing something that you are manifesting in your life, more or less depending on the circumstances. Let's talk about tarot readings. So I told you the Celtic cross, right? So you're starting out with a significator, represents you or the question. Don't try to write it all down. I'll send it to you. And then you've got the atmosphere and the opposing forces for either escalating or diminishing the impact, the far past, the near future, the farther future. That's all in this little cross. Can you believe you can get all that with a bunch of little pieces of cardboard on a table? Yeah. And then there's the staff, which I read as your image of yourself in relation to this question. The next one is whoever's relevant image of you in relation to that question. And you get to pick who's relevant. Because, as they say in 12-step programs, someone else's opinion of you is not your business. That is their business, unless you choose to make it your business. So if you want someone's opinion about you in relation to that question, go ahead and ask for it. Otherwise, they should mind their own business. And then there's the hopes, fears, and expectations. And then the key, the culminator, the card that's supposed to make it all make sense. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't make sense, for those of you who do readings, then you turn to the person you're reading for and you go, are you sure you only had one question? Were you really clear about what you wanted to know, about the outcome that you wanted for this reading? Because that isn't making all the rest of this make sense. But when it works, it's like magic. You pull that card, you put it down, and you go, aha! And the poor person there, it's like they're being examined by an oncologist. They're like, what? What does that mean? It's like, well, it all makes perfect sense to me. Now it's my job to explain it to you, so it all makes perfect sense to you. And then, and this is what makes it complicated, the meaning of every card changes in relation to the cards around it. Oh, so that card that crosses you and that takes energy in or out of the atmosphere, if it's pointing to the past, it's taking energy out. If it's pointing to the future, it's giving energy in, right? That kind of 10 of Cups, which is the aha, family, golden rainbow, everything's right, that's in your far past, that's reversed. That's a hole in your bucket. That's someone from whom you could have reasonably expected nurture and support, and you didn't quite get what you needed. Doesn't mean that anybody's evil. You just didn't get what you needed. And that is draining it out from under, not from something you can have in current mind. right? That's, oh, all that childhood stuff. That's either a wellspring of strength or a hole in your bucket, right? So there's all this movement going on. Who does computer graphics simulations? Anybody do that? Oh, Sage, Joan, I need somebody to do this because the tarot layout is like this spiral thing. Yeah, because you've got this going around here and that going there and this going here and then the stuff coming up from below. I can see it in my mind's eye, but I'll be darned if I could program that. Even with the new generation of animation things, it's like I just don't have that kind of mind. And guess what? I don't need to because somebody else does. That's the other thing the tarot can teach you. Nobody can do everything well. You just have to focus on the things that you do well. Unlike what your 6th grade teacher told you, it's like you're not doing very well on math, so you should work on that more. No, I married one. I should work on the things I can do and build my strengths. That's why you're all here at this convention, isn't it? Yeah, we want to get what we need so that we can build our strengths, build our energy, become empowered, and do the thing that only you can do. There never has been and never will be another you. Right? If you're using the tarot cards as a tool for yourself and for others, every system works if you are consistent. Believe it or not, with all 78 cards, you will develop a personal relationship with every card over time. Oh, did I hear a wise woman say something like patience, persistence, practice? Yeah, you have to kind of live with it. I still carry my 2 favorite books around with me. I still reference them. Every once in a while, a card will come up and go, you know, I don't have such a good relationship with this card, and it's not making sense to me in this position, so let's just whip out the book and see what someone else thought this card meant. And am I embarrassed? No. Because I will be the first one to tell you, I don't know everything. You're never perfect until you're dead and they say all the good stuff about you afterwards. I really want them to say the good stuff while we're still alive. Shouldn't we do that? But we're still never going to know it all, are we? No. So the first thing to do, if you're going to do tarot readings for other people, is kind of like I do with my little comic card and say, just don't, I'm not taking myself too seriously. I'm going to do the best I can. I'll take you seriously. I'll take your well-being and your questions seriously, but I'm not going to take me seriously because, well, God knows I'm not God. Again, I'll reference the 12-step program. Anytime you start thinking you're God, jump up in the air. If you stay up, I might believe you. Yeah. I need some questions. It is 4:15, 4:17? Give me some questions. Don't tell me I'm very clear, Craig. If I didn't give you, oh, yes, please. Alexandra?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I never tried the reading, and if I would like to learn it, what's the best way to do it?
What she asked, she's never tried a reading, and if she would like to learn it, what's the best way to do it? What I did was tell my husband I wanted a book and a deck for my birthday. He got them. This is a long, long time ago in 1979. And then I just followed the system in the book. And, it's like study a card a day, which, it's going to take a few months there. And sleep with the cards under your pillow so that you subconsciously are aware of them all the time. And then practice, practice, practice. That's the the most basic, and I got the Rider-Waite deck, which is the commonest and I think the easiest to understand, although there are other decks. You might go online and say, show me tarot decks, and see one that is oriented differently, has different kind of art on it that appeals to you. As long as the numerology is the same, it doesn't matter what the art is. There was a science fiction fantasy deck that a bunch of science fiction fantasy artists each did tarot cards years and years ago. And some of them were kind of out there. But the numerology was the same. So it didn't matter what the picture was. It's just the pictures are just kind of reminding you what the stuff needs, what it means. You could go to a teacher if you want. There are people who teach online. Once you understand the basics of the cards and the numerology, you can go as deeply into the technology as you want, or you can stick with that first basic book and just say that the positions are the positions it tells you and the meanings are the meanings it tells you. I did that for years until I had a close personal relationship with every card. And now I don't have to do that. So some people are very intuitive. Some people will start doing this and they will just instantly know what a card means. I'm afraid I'm too much of a thinker. I want to really understand it. I'm kind of academic. You know, I studied so many different spiritual systems and Ayurveda and Kabbalah, and you know, everything's mistranslated into English pretty much. But that's my personality because I'm curious and I want to know stuff. I wonder how much good that's going to do me at the end of my life, that I know a bunch of stuff. Probably none if I don't do the teaching, right? I mean, it's just no point in knowing a bunch of stuff if you don't tell anybody. Did that answer your question? Please.
So when doing the reading, as this, you mentioned intuitive, are you looking at this person and the cards and this kind of makes connection all together?
Uh-huh.
You're just basically looking at the cards and it doesn't matter who's sitting next to you, you're just seeing the cards and you're interpreting the cards.
Okay, so if I'm interpreting your question correctly, do I do it mechanically, that I am just reading the cards without interacting with the person? Right, regardless of who it is?
Kind of understanding, because you can read from
Right.
human being what their needs are, who they are.
Yes, so every human being is different and you can kind of read their needs, and I could do this all without cards, and I do a lot of coaching without cards. But the answer is both. That's why my system is to lay the cards out, explain the position, what the card usually means, and go through the whole thing mechanically, and then afterwards go back and say what I think it probably means, even though I don't know the question. I do not want to know the question until afterwards. I do not want to have an opinion. I keep referencing that card that the person pulled as being their significator and going back to saying that question. I am interpreting that I think that question is about occupation or family or relationships or whatever. But I don't want to know the exact question because then I'm going to have an opinion. So the answer is both. Go through it mechanically and let them come to their own conclusions first, and then go through and interpret it as best I can in relation to that question. I always emphasize that this is in relation to this question with just these cards. I mean, 10 little pieces of cardboard can't possibly give you the holistic picture. Sometimes you have to go through a series of readings. But if they can focus their question down to something that can be answered, then this might give them sometimes a very unequivocal, unambiguous answer. Usually it's not a yes or no. Sometimes that happens. That is just No, you're on the wrong path. You're going to be miserable. Ask another question. Yes, yes.
So I've heard about this, and this is the first experience I've had, but listening to you and your experience, which is pretty extensive, congratulations.
Thank you.
It sounds like that these potential opportunities, and go through these and how people make this selection, I would think that there would be kind of profiles that would come to you on a regular basis where people were somewhere in this place but not quite, and indicating where, where they may be or stuck in this challenge in some of those situations.
If I understand your question, Joe, when you are experienced enough, you will detect patterns and see where their blockages are. Yes, it becomes really clear in the reading whether they're what is holding them back. Oh, aren't we bilaterally symmetrical front and back facing creatures that we think of time and evolution of spirit as walking on a path? That's all baked into our experience of life. But usually when the reading is on point and the question was clear and answerable, it's very obvious in the question whether their blockage is in the past, far past, recent past, or there's something they're just not aware of that comes up in the near future. And when I say near future, I mean 2 seconds to 2 days kind of near future. Often, if I look at the reading, I'll go, so this is going to come up in this reading. This is going to be one of those 2-second, the cards are just telling you right now an aspect of the situation that you were not aware of. So that's what's coming up right there in that near future. And that's fun because that's like breaking an ice dam. And then everything goes whoosh. And they're like, oh, love it. People laugh, people cry. They're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. It's like, okay, let me finish the reading. See. Yeah, quite a lot. Because if they did their job, when they randomized the cards, so I shuffled the cards to get rid of the previous reading. They shuffled the cards to put their own flavor on it. So there's a little protocol there, little kind of stuff you do. If they were clear about their question, they usually get a clear reading. And then they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Right? And then they run off and get a massage. Or whatever they need to do. No, I haven't sent anyone to the hospital yet. Thank you very much, Joe, for putting that picture in my head. Yes, Denise.
When you're flipping over the cards,
right?
It makes a difference if it's upside down.
Yes, it does.
So if you're reading for yourself, does it matter if you flip them this way up or if you flip them this way up?
Wow, that's a good technical question. Denise asked, when you're reading for yourself, does it matter if you flip them up this way or that way? No, it does not matter as long as you always do it the same way.
Really?
Yeah. You have to be consistent because the system is going to work if you are consistent. What I do have to watch out for is when somebody, I tell them pick a card, I have to watch how they take it out of the deck, whether they take it out and twist it into a different orientation, because I want to know if it came out of the deck up or down. And they weren't conscious of it. So some people are really very cautious and they'll kind of pull the card out and hand it to me face down so I can flip it out because they don't want to do anything wrong. And some people just grab it and go like, whoa. And I'm like, which way was it? I don't know. But when you're reading for yourself, you can do it any way you want. So let me just mention a thing about layouts because we have a couple of minutes. You can do a 1 card. You can do 5 cards. My girlfriend and I invented the Freudian tarot layout. Oh, that was great. Like you got a whole bunch of cards that are your outer awareness, and then you have fewer cards to the next layer, and you go all the way down, and then it crosses over, and then you've got that deepest, like baby experience stuff down there. And so we had the conscious, subconscious, superconscious, and all that in this one layout. We used to do these workshops at science fiction conventions, and one time we had, I think, like 12 readers with all different card decks, and we discussed for 2 hours to get a question that we could all agree on. That was hilarious, right? And then everyone did a reading, and everyone but one person got the same answer from all these different decks. And I asked him, why did you get a different answer? He goes, oh, because I was reading for you instead of for me. Dude, I told you to read for yourself. At that time, science fiction conventions were radical. And the question everyone agreed on was, will the government decide that the science fiction community is a danger and start watching us? Because a lot of the people in this particular convention group were from MIT and Harvard and the other colleges in Boston, and they were classified. So a lot of their work was classified. And you know what the readings all said, except this one guy, because he was a wise guy? They all said, no, because they think you're silly. Well, it really doesn't matter what the question was, except that it took us 2 hours to agree on it. What really matters is all the readers but one got the same answer, no matter what deck they were using, no matter what layout system they were using. They all had to write it down, right? And that's the distillation of the answer. Well, if that isn't proof, I don't know what is. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I have a question.
Is it true that you should never buy your own cards?
Buy your own cards?
I was told to never buy your own cards.
Oh, she was told never buy your own cards.
I gave
Okay.
my cards as a gift.
Right, right. Oh, there are so... I understand. There's so many superstitions. Like never let anyone else touch your deck. Baloney, I'll take my deck out and pass it around. Everybody take a card. No. Buy your cards, give your cards. They're just little pieces of cardboard with art on them. Okay? We are the humans. If I don't have enough sense of self, enough emotional, spiritual, and psychic power of my own to clear my deck and to put up my shields and purify everything I feel like I have to purify and all that, I shouldn't be doing this stuff. Right? Yeah, yeah. So, right. Well, yeah. No, I mean, you can draw your own deck. You can mix the cards from different decks because you like the art. You are the humans. You can do whatever you want. Yes, ma'am. Is that Susan? Hi, Susan. Thank you.
As far as when you're going to read, do you make sure all your cards are in the same direction, or does it matter? Like if they're reversed, or like I'm pretty anal, I try to make sure they're all going the same way.
Oh, you're a chariot.
So it doesn't matter.
So all the cards are going the same way. No, to the contrary, what you want to do is you want to randomize them as much as possible. Minimally, you want to shuffle the deck and mess everything around at least 3 times between people and between readings, because you need the random factor. You need the chaos in the universe to inform your reading. I have no working hypothesis as to how my meditation makes the cards move around in the deck. I have no idea why one card comes up instead of another card. I do have an understanding that there are many cards that can mean somewhat the same thing. That I can get the same answer even though it might not be identical cards. Because of the archetypes and because of the numerology, it doesn't have to be exactly that card. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's approximate. But if you don't randomize the cards and give the universe a chance to have its input, and do you do the deck cutting with your left hand to get that other part of your brain working and wake it all up? I mean, it doesn't matter. I used to have somebody who was on panels with me a lot. She had the unlikely name Kristen Huttschnecht. She divorced him. She needed a better name. She used to say, it doesn't matter if I'm eating the Rice Krispies in my bowl or the smoke from my barbecue. I'm having the intuition. That is just a trigger. That is just a symbol. That is just a tool that I am using to bring that into my awareness. So it doesn't matter if you've got runes, pick up rocks, sticks, bones, whatever system, angel cards. I love angel cards. They're beautiful. Pardon me? Tea leaves, whatever. As long as you are consistent in interpretation of the patterns.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys are great. Thank you.
Sorry, Sage.